before we move on with the missing operators project, let us spend some time understanding the syntax of the statements that we have been using here. We have used a bunch of if statements. There are two things that I want to cover in this video. Number one, the syntax that we have used here. The number two, the role of indentation when we write many such statements back to back, as we have done here. For example, in line 8, line 11, line 14, 3 if statements back to back. Let us understand carefully what's going on with respect to the indentations in this. Starting with a single if statement, well, first thing first, remember that this is in logic exactly same as the if then statement from scratch. So we have here, I'm going to make 5 points. Number one, notice the structure of this. The logical condition that triggers the statement to be true in this case is OP equal to 0. The reason we have two equal to's here, that's my second point, is because we are testing for equality. Later on, I'll show you more logical conditions. You can put any of those in fact. However, the broad structure remains the same. If a logical condition, then there is a colon. Well, this colon is a part of the syntax. You can think of it like the then from scratch. So it's always if logical condition colon. Number 4, notice that there is this indentation. The indentation is how Python groups statements in logical units. We'll talk more about this as we go on, but notice that everything inside the if has to be indented from the if itself. In fact, the replit editor does it for us quite nicely. If we type colon until here and then you click enter, you'll notice that your cursor automatically goes a little bit inside. In fact, it's exactly one tab inside. That is the indentation. Indentation plays an extremely important role in Python, as we'll see as we go on. Finally, notice that there are no brackets in this code, which makes it very easy, very intuitive and simple to read, and which is why we say Python is a very readable language with a relatively easy syntax. Now, we spoke about logical conditions. We have used this condition something equal to something. Remember, we have to check two equal to's here. Whenever we are checking for equality, it's 2 equals, which is exactly same as something, let's say an equal to here. So just like this, greater than, less than, we have similar conditions in Python. There are 2 more conditions, which is greater than, equal to, which means true if the A is either greater than or equal to B, and likewise less than equal to. We can also create more interesting conditions. For example, something and something, something or something, something like an inversion of something. We have used all of this before, and the same exact logic applies here. The syntax we'll have to be a little bit careful about. We'll look at all of this as we go on. Notice also that each of these is a diamond, which means that this all returns a Boolean value, and likewise all these conditions. It's either true or false, and which is why the whole loop works in the first place. Let us focus our attention on the indentation here. Like I told you, when we write an if statement, the statements that are going inside are indented with respect to the if statement itself. But now the question comes up, when does this particular indentation get over? When does this particular block get over? So for example, I'm writing this code, there's no brackets here. It says if OP equals to 0, then RHS is equal to num1 plus num2. I go back in this and I write if OP is equal to 1, RHS is equal to num1 minus num2. Now, notice very, very carefully, and this part is very important, this statement here, which means if I show you from my code, line number 11 here is no longer indented, whereas line number 9 is. Line number 10 will get ignored anyway. The reason this is not indented is because this particular the previous if gets over with line number 9. So in short, the if block gets over the moment the indentation gets over. Again, Scratch does a beautiful job to illustrate this whole point. Let's say we write the code the way I have done, which is the correct case. If OP is equal to 1, then do this. If OP is equal to 0, then do this. If OP is equal to 1, then do this. That code in equivalent Scratch would be if OP equals to 0, then num1 plus num2. If OP is equal to 1, then num1 minus num2. However, and we'll see this in action. Let's say by mistake I had written the code with an indentation on these 2 statements. Notice the moment I did not indent the second statement, it gives me an error, because remember, every if has to be followed by an indentation. So I do give this indentation here. However, notice now what has happened is that this indentation on the line number 11 has got aligned with line number 9, which means to the Python interpreter, this is in fact one statement. So it's kind of thinking if OP is equal to 0, then RHS is equal to num1 plus num2. Then it checks for if OP is equal to 1. Now, if you are carefully thinking about this, you'll realize that in fact, this piece of code will never get executed. And that's quite interesting because remember, OP takes either 0, 1 or 2. If OP is 1, then this gate doesn't open at all, and hence this gate is not checked at all. So this code will become in fact completely never to be accessed. To avoid this, I mean the right way is to make sure they are indented correctly. So I'm ending my previous if statement there, I unindent, and then I start the next one. Again, looking at the equivalent scratch code makes it quite interesting, quite clear. Like I said, this is the incorrect situation. Here what I've ended up doing, somewhat maybe unknowingly sometimes if you're not careful, this code is equivalent to if OP equals to 0, set RHS to num1 plus num2, then put another if OP equals to 1, set RHS equals to num1 minus num2. So this part is extremely important. We have to be careful about where the block ends, and the only weapon, the only tool that we have rather in our hand is indentation, and hence we must use it correctly and carefully. This is a recurring theme which will keep coming up, so I'll keep highlighting this point again and again so that it becomes more clear. But I hope this gives you an idea. Again, if you look at our website ybyte.in, you will find many such videos, many such activities where you can learn Python programming through fun activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.